So you mentioned permaculture principles early briefly. What can you explain the permaculture principles to us? Because what is permaculture?
Yeah. So permaculture represents permanent culture. It's not, it
What
used to
is
be
that?
permanent agriculture, but it's changed to permanent culture, which is basically a regenerative way of life. So it's permanent. It's not going to go extinct. It's not going to run out because the resources are all nourishing each other.
Regenerative.
It doesn't have to come from an outside source or lead to an outside source. It's a closed loop system where nothing's going to waste. Therefore, it's eternal.
Okay, so it's a resilient, regenerative system that feeds itself.
Yeah. So that's food forestry, like the 7 layers of the food forest. They're all helping each other grow. They all have their own ways of growing, and they grow in harmony with each other and help the plants become more resilient to pests, and the ground's being covered so they don't need fertilizer because the microbes are healthy. So the 7 layers is like a beautiful example of how one person can be like a vine, and one person can be like a tree, and one person can be the ground cover in a community, and
they're all necessary and perfect
yeah.
and beautiful.
And they all produce more abundantly.
Because our current culture, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, you're right. The 7 layers of the food forest. Our current culture promotes one of those layers, like sod or palms, the canopy or whatever, the palm layer. So it's important to realize the rest of them and encourage them in our space. So that's what you're talking about. Permaculture is it's a style of growing, but it relates in so many other ways, right?
So yeah, there's 3 core ethics to permaculture in the design module, and that's earth care, people care, and fair share are the 3 core principles.
Earth care, people care,
and
fair share.
And then there's 12 principles, which are my Bible. And I won't go over all 12, but each one goes into how to work with your land or your homestead, where, you're self-resilient. And then each one, I also like to teach about how it goes within ourselves, our spiritual awareness. But I just love that the first permaculture principle is observe and interact. So before you start to tend to land, just sit with the land and observe the animals that are already there, observe the elder trees that are already there, observe even over time, the weather and the seasons over time, where the sun hits different parts of the land, where the water drains in different parts of the land, and even the spirits and the ancestors that have been on that land, and to connect first and ask permission and make an offering. But what that means within ourselves, to observe and interact, before we start to do anything, to be the observer of life, that seat of awareness where life is filled with paradoxes. Everything's a paradox. There's there's extreme highs and lows all the time to everything, but the observer is that middle way, seeing it all and being aware of it and not dissociating, but not being pulled by it. And that's what everything in nature is doing, just observing each other. And really, humans, we need meditation to be able to do that.
That's what it is for us.
And slowness and stillness. And I'm
observe
remembering that.
Where
and then interact from that place of observing.
Right.
Then we make decisions and take action. That's the first principle. Incredible.
Wow.
And then there's 11 more, and each one just this hits so deep.
So that first principle, guys, is observe and interact, you said?
Yeah.
It's so real. Thank you. Yeah, and we have to observe ourselves. Where are we at before we can even know what to do?
Yeah.
Right? It's so simple. But
there's so many amazing principles. Yeah. It's a whole other... We can go deep into that. But.
We could. By the way, I just want to mention this story real quick. I was down in Boca today. I believe, Boca Bath and Tennis. Right there and, right off 95. HOA community, all this stuff. It was this client that hit me up a couple years ago who wanted help. He planted this beautiful, secret garden style type garden. Beautiful in this little community. And he just hits me up out of the blue. He's like, someone hits me up out of the blue to get a garden design phone call. Hey, I just bought a home from Ryan, from this client. And, it's been years since I've been over there. It's and I need help, making sense of it. Can you come help me, look at the plants, see what I got? I'm like, sure. And, you know, I didn't know what I'd end up seeing. She's like, there's weeds coming and stuff. And it was beautiful, by the way. I was like, there's so much potential here. He planted coffee and all beautiful mangoes and mulberries. And she was starting to like listen to my feedback, like what I should do. Oh, maybe you want to get some of those weeds. They get out of control, but like leave some of those are good, and taste this. And it was a lot of fun. And then by the end of it, she's like, wait, so should I just like get rid of all these? And I started to think, I'm like, no, it's good to take action on all this, but also some of this stuff's good. Like observe, like I wouldn't get rid of it until we taste the fruit and try.
Give it time.
Give it time.
Yeah, that's another permaculture principle. Slow and small solutions.
But like, I love how she was being proactive, but you're right. Yeah, slow and small solutions, right?
Yeah, honoring the time, the divine time. And like our culture of overconsumption wants to rush the production, and that's what creates the imbalance of the ecosystems, is pumping it filled with steroids.
Yeah.
And then the plants become dependent.
Yeah.
And then we're pumping ourselves with things. We're all dependent and addicted to these things too. And yeah, we're all searching for the next high almost, because we're all addicted to something in this society, multiple things. And the healing is really purging out these addictions and coming back to this natural, raw, pure state. That's why I'm so radical with things. Like,
by the way, Brielle is radical.
He's been calling me radical so often lately.
You're the one who brought it up. Yeah, but you are.
We're in the garden.